Thank you so much for joining us. We absolutely love getting together with all of you every Wednesday afternoon. Melissa and I and the rest of our audience get to learn about all kinds of really cool best practices and technologies being put to work in the world of technical education. I want to begin by actually sharing an experience I had just a couple short years ago. I had the opportunity to go to Ashley for the Arts. If you've never been, this is an incredible event that takes place every year, with the exception of last year due to COVID, in Arcadia, Wisconsin. And I was there at the invitation of Ron and Todd Wanek, the founder, chairman, and CEO, respectively, of Ashley Furniture. And it was an amazing experience. First of all, I was there because they did the grand opening and the big reveal of their Ashley Mobile Skills Lab. This is a 900 square foot classroom, believe it or not, in the form of a semi-trailer that travels through several school districts in and around Arcadia, Wisconsin, delivering Industry 4.0 learning to the students there. It's really, really amazing. For certain, that was the highlight of the entire weekend for me, but I did do some other really, really cool things. We had an entire display there dedicated to ATS Lab Midwest and the solutions that we provide to the world of technical education. Our team had an opportunity to share with young people and people of all ages some really, really cool learning systems and technologies at work in the world of advanced manufacturing. We even got a chance to take a break and see Dan and Shay. It's this huge concert venue that's taking place over the course of the weekend. 60,000 people visited Ashley for the Arts this year. And we had a little bit of fun. This is a photograph that I took of two good friends of mine. The gentleman on the right of our screen is a gentleman by the name of Mike Bigley. Mike is the superintendent of schools in Whitehall School District, a tremendous innovator when it comes to technical education. To his right, on the left side of your screen, is another great friend of mine, Andy Baker. Andy is one of the most advanced automation minds that you will ever meet. He runs the automation program for all of Ashley Furniture, just a brilliant, brilliant person. And so we took a break for lunch. And when it was my turn to go to get lunch, I said, yeah, I have to go find something to eat. And these gentlemen said, have you tried that Superior Fresh food truck over there? And I said, no. He said, oh, you got to check that out. So I did. I went over there and I got my salad and I got my Atlantic salmon and sat down to eat it. And I'm going to tell you, it is one of the most incredible meals I've ever had. I was like, what is this stuff? And they said, well, it's Superior Fresh. It's right here, not too far from Arcadia in Hickston, Wisconsin. And I absolutely fell in love with this company's products. I can tell you that I will not make a salad anymore out of anything but the organic citrus splash greens from Superior Fresh. Now, this has created a little bit of a problem. I've been such an advocate for this product that there are days when I can't go and find it on the shelves of my grocery store. It's so popular. It's absolutely phenomenal. So I almost have to keep it a secret so I can get my hands on it when I want to. But here is the really, really interesting thing about this product. If you look at their website, they talk about their farm being an ecosystem where every single organism plays an important role in the balance of life. The fish thrive in the water, and that feeds the organic leafy greens, and those greens purify the water that's then returned to the fish. We're going to learn all about this today. And it says our people, two of whom we're going to meet today, nurture this ecosystem, maintaining the delicate balance. So the story doesn't end there. There's actually an interesting connection between this technology and our education. About a year ago, right before COVID, I was contacted by my friend Jim McIntyre. Jim is the CEO of Greenheck Fan Corporation up in Schofield, Wisconsin. A huge, huge company, by the way. And he said, they're opening up a new tech wing at DC Everest. I know ATS Lab Midwest has been instrumental in putting that together. Do you want to go with me? Of course, I accepted the invitation. And a week or two later, off Jim and I went to this grand opening. Saw some really, really cool technology, by the way, at this high school. One of the coolest things I saw was their hydroponic agriculture program, where students in high school are learning all about at least half of the technology, the hydroponic technology half that we are going to learn about today in this webinar from my friends Katie and Adam. So this is a topic that is pertinent to education. It is pertinent to agriculture. It is certainly pertinent to any of us in tech ed. And that is why it is such a pleasure for me today to welcome our two guests. The first guest, and I absolutely love this picture, is Katie Fitzgerald. Now, Katie has an incredible passion and an incredible interest in the whole idea of sustainable food systems and agricultural technology. So much so that she came all the way to Wisconsin. She's not a native, so that she could serve in her current role as the greenhouse operations coordinator for Superior Fresh. And she's working there to ensure that her team has a safe and efficient and purposeful harvest. Get this, every single day. And so we're going to talk to Katie all about that. Our second guest is a gentleman whom I've actually known for probably 5 or 6 years, Adam Olson. I first met Adam at Chippewa Valley Technical College, where he's a graduate. Adam today serves as the facilities maintenance manager for Superior Fresh, but Adam has past experience in industrial maintenance, medical equipment field service, CNC tool, machine tool, and CNC field service, and now food production maintenance. He's going to tell us all about this technology that is alive and well at Superior Fresh. So Katie, Adam, welcome to Webinar Wednesday. It is such a pleasure to have both of you here. And we are going to start, Katie, with a question for you. I know many of our audience may not be completely familiar with this term aquaponics. So can you explain first why or what aquaponics is, and also why did Superior Fresh want to take on this project in the first place?
So aquaponics is the blending of two words, aquaculture and hydroponics. So aquaculture, similar to the word agriculture, or you can see right here, like growing in food, is cultivating the water. And hydroponics is simply growing plants in a nutrient-rich water. Let's see. So both of these technologies can be applied in both low-tech and high-tech systems. We see aquaculture systems that can just be a simple netting and people catching in different ponds, or we see aquaculture systems like ours, which are completely controlled, everything from the water flow to the water clarity to our nutrition and stuff. And so they're really adaptive. The other cool thing about aquaponics is that you can grow a plethora of different veggies and different aquatic animals in it. So we can see aquaculture systems of kelp, shrimp, and Atlantic salmon like we have at Superior Fresh. Same side on hydroponics, we see greenhouses across the country and the world growing everything from tomatoes to cucumbers to leafy greens like we do here. So Superior Fresh got into this because our owners, Karen and Todd Womack, were at their plant in China and just saw how depleted our environment was getting and how bad the quality of the water was where we were growing. And so we decided, they and accompany it with our president, Brandon, decided that we're going to try and change the world by how we grow food. So we got into aquaponics because we believe that it's one of the best ways to both sustainably grow food, invest into your environmental system, and provide fresh, nutritious, dense food for local communities, both across the Midwest and beyond.
So changing the world by how you grow food, what a phenomenal mission that you get to be a part of every single day. As we keep this video scrolling, I just think these photographs and this video is absolutely incredible. Katie, is this new technology? Is this whole idea of aquaponics something brand new to the world of agriculture?
So aquaponics as a system has been around since rivers and forests were around. So take, for example, salmon. When they go out to the ocean and they bulk up all this meat, they bring back all of those all of that nutrients back to their same home rivers. When they then spawn and pass away, those nutrients that fish got in the ocean then used to fund all of the nutrient systems and stuff in our forests and rivers today. Aquaponics itself can trace its history back. Hydroponics can trace its history back to the gardens of Babylon. So it's really been a part of human history for a long time. And same with aquaculture. So we even see the Romans start to first grow oysters and fish as we started depleting our ocean's production of fish. As humans have continued to put more pressure on environmental systems, our oceans and rivers cannot keep up with human demand and cannot keep up with humans' demand for clean, fresh fish. So we see a mass investment of funding going towards these technologies like aquaponics, aquaculture, and hydroponics to then meet that demand and be able to produce clean, fresh food for the growing amount of people on this planet. So it's definitely as a base not new, but the mass innovation, the vertical growing, the integrating these into homes and suburbans, and it kind of growing from a backyard science to a real player in the food industry, that part's new. And that's been, the last 10 years, we've just seen mass capital investment into the aquaponics and hydroponic fields.
So huge amounts of capital investment, certainly amazing amounts of innovation. Now, I can tell you that one of the things that we love about Webinar Wednesday. One of the things that we love about getting to meet so many amazing and committed people like you and Adam is that so many people in STEM fields have an absolute passion, a mission around what it is that they do for a living. I know from getting to know you that you are absolutely no different. Tell us, Katie, why is Superior Fresh and the field of aquaponics so intriguing to you personally?
So personally, I'm 5 generations of farm kid on my mother's side, and I'm a proud dairyman's daughter. And so growing food and just the power that food can bring to a community and to a family grew really deep in my veins. I watched my dad milk cows and be a milkman since he could walk, and go through 3 hip surgeries and a few shoulder surgeries. And at the end of the day, if the processor tells us they don't want our milk tomorrow, we could go out of business. And I knew this couldn't be right. I grew up in a community where the people in my community spent their days providing for their livestock and their land, and at the end of the day couldn't feed themselves. And I knew this couldn't be right. I knew there had to be another option. And so through a weird strange events and stuff, Superior Fresh came into my life, and I was managing a hydroponics system for a local food bank when I was up at Washington State going to school. And I fell in love with it. I got to see the rolling hills of Wisconsin and all this water everywhere. And I grew up in southern Idaho in a desert, and so it was just gorgeous to me. And I remember I drove up on the interstate and I saw this giant glass building. I was like, that's got to be it. I was dropping my buddy off in Madison, and I had been reading about it for a year, and just to see it in real life and then be able to walk in that greenhouse, and it's like a glass castle filled with different colors of leafy greens and filled with really passionate people. I got to work with Adam as an intern, and we just talked, and it was just people that are passionate about what they're doing, are satisfied in their work, and are willing to sacrifice themselves to do it. And that's such a hard thing to find. And there's plenty of people at Superior Fresh that are putting it all on the line to try and make this thing work. And I wanted to be a part of that as much as I could.
Isn't it amazing to be a part of an organization, to be part of a vocation where what you're doing is bigger than you are as an individual? It makes it fun to come to work, right?
Well, definitely. And I mean, working in agriculture in general, like just the power that the production of food has, not only as humans impact on the environment, but when you bring nutrition to kids and when you bring nutrition to families, you start to see there's this whole nother level of human development when people know when their food's coming to them. And if we want to get ourselves out of, I just feel like giving people good, nutritious food is the fundamental for any type of development that we want.
And bringing them that good, nutritious food doesn't happen without a whole lot of technology, does it, Adam? Now, I know that you're just as passionate about this mission as Katie is. As I mentioned in the intro, you and I have known each other for several years. You were even handpicked by one of our great partners, Chippewa Valley Technical College, to assist in their lab while and after you were a student, because you know this technology backwards and forwards. I know our audience is going to be curious to know, Adam, what types of advanced technologies are you using in the field of aquaponics? And is this just your typical farm, or how is it different?
Well, the most important thing about developing these growing conditions is the ability to control that climate. And we use state-of-the-art greenhouse management systems that will measure and record and account for these climate variables. We monitor the exterior and interior conditions. And the integration of that technology uses this precise data with input devices, and then dictates how we deploy all of its features with output devices. And somewhere in the middle, the growing team monitors that communication between these two things. Natural sunlight, or the lack of, will determine how we utilize supplemental lights, as well as our shade, our heat, our ventilation, our humidification strategies. While the growing team uses their knowledge of the relationship between the plants and these conditions, our maintenance team, we have to guarantee the functionality of these tools in order to set them up for success. Without the control, we're completely vulnerable to all of the negative effects of the weather, the same as an outdoor farm. And obviously that's not what we want. And the same can be said about our fish operation. We have to provide optimal growing condition to foster these salmon from egg to harvest, while we're recording and monitoring and pulling trends. And when it comes time to harvest, whether it be the fish or the lettuce, we also have to use technology to develop low impact methods to ensure that the quality doesn't suffer. Whenever it comes to food production, overhandling a product can have negative effects. The lettuce packaging equipment is almost completely automated. The transportation of these hydroponic boards that hold the lettuce through its harvest will separate the product from the waste, and then the product will continue through automated weighing, packaging, and then inspection as well. And there's very little human contact to that product. And we achieve that, all of it, through the use of precise sensors, load cells, encoders, servos, pumps, motors, filters, UV systems. And then as far as you asked how it can differ from a typical farm, harvesting equipment in an outdoor farm hasn't really evolved much to a certain extent. Now, when it comes to lettuce, they're still using a tractor and a conveyor and people walking and picking up the product. Like I said, that hasn't changed. The soil already exists in the ground. The water is on a coastline. In the natural but scarce and invasive environment is there. An open farmland at the optimal latitudes is scarce. Net pen salmon farming is harmful to the ecosystem, and it lacks control. That's the key factor to all of this automation is the ability to control. And automated farming provides manipulation of those growing conditions without having to use harsh inputs to counter those negative effects of the weather. But it also requires a vast knowledge base of diverse equipment and disciplines. Somebody in my field needs to know mechanics and pneumatics, fluid dynamics, electrical theory, process control. And it also requires some creative troubleshooting. Sometimes the availability of support poses unique scenarios here. And the heavy dependency of technology may offer convenience and efficiency, but it also creates a little vulnerability in knowing how to address a failure of a critical component. It has a massive effect on this ecosystem.
So there's a couple of things that strike me. First of all, certainly significant differences between this and traditional or typical farming, some similarities, but lots and lots of differences. The other thing that's interesting is how many of the technologies you're working with that we see alive and well in other manufacturing environments, particularly in process control driven environments. So just really, really interesting how well some of this technology aligns with what's happening, for example, in electromechanical or in industrial mechanics programs across the United States and across the globe. I know you talked a little bit about automation, more so about process control and IO and so on, Adam. Are there other types of automation that you're using in the process that you want to highlight for our audience?
Well, we use a lot of proprietary, cutting edge technologies, and we've got prototype equipment here. We're trying to drive the way this is done, and there's a lot of things that you would only have that exposure if you were somebody that works here. But I think a large aspect I want to touch on would be the monitoring, the ability to have set points on all of these parameters and then output alarms. So there's an entire team of people that receive alarms 24 hours a day. And all of these things are monitoring all of these critical set points for the fish and the lettuce. So data is only good if you're able to use it. And that encompasses controlling that data and making sure that that we don't fall outside of that realm of optimal growing conditions.
So Katie, Adam highlights a number of different aspects of the technology that's really specific, not just to the food industry, but perhaps even specific to your operation. I'm sure there's a lot of folks in our audience that don't necessarily have a great deal of familiarity with the process of producing food, that they have a distance from that technology. They may not be overly familiar with it. What are some of the things that people might not realize that come along with working in the food industry?
So it's actually, I was thinking about this for a while because I'm always trying to figure out what makes a farm kid, and why do farm kids do so well in like business? Why are we always trying to recruit them? Like, what type of mindset do they get? And it's actually explained to me by a tech guy from Portland. And what he said is that farming's a VUCA environment, VUCA. So it's volatile, uncertain, complex, and filled with ambiguity. A big example of this is COVID. So overnight, when COVID got announced and they shut down restaurants, our entire customer base changed. Our retail needs changed. Our consumers wanted something different because now they're from home and not working at the market. And that 24 hours, we didn't have any prep for that. Overnight, an article could go out when Seaspiracy was released. There was a huge blow up of different information coming out around farm fish and fishing. That can affect us just in a blink of an eye like that. And growing up on a dairy and stuff, like you become familiar with death and the cycle of death, and you just kind of always, you've learned how to live with the feeling that everything's on fire because it's always going to be on fire and you're always going to try and fix a problem. And once you can finally get your mindset around that and have it stop taking away all your energy, then you can focus your energy on making things better and improving it and making it sure so when you have this problem again, it doesn't go as bad as it did the first time. And it's just this constant mindset of improving, watching your crops. Just because it's a farm and just because there's machines that are doing it doesn't mean you don't need that human interaction of double checking what's happening. And yeah, and I'm sure Olson can speak to this too. You can have a computer tell you a problem, but they're not going to tell you how to fix it. And so you still got to be watching that and knowing that machine and knowing that plant. I think that even in control environment ag, we're still susceptible to disease. We're still susceptible to different storms and that type of thing. And there's always going to be something that's coming at you, whether it's disease or government regulations or whatever. But at the end of the day, you get to go home knowing that you're providing food for your community and that you're growing a system and that you can see the impact you have on your work environment every single day. And I think that's really powerful. The other part about this job is that you never do the same job twice, and you're always active throughout your entire workday, which is not, you don't get a lot of jobs with that anymore. And so I think there's kind of this purpose behind it. And that's why I say purposeful harvest. You know, I know every day I'm a part of feeding 20,000 people in 11 different states. And if I do my job right and I help my team do their job right, then we can make sure those customers have a great dinner. And just being able to have that impact every day is really satisfying and makes you want to stay in the industry.
And having that impact certainly inside of your aquaponics facility, but also on the outside. There's 800 total acres, right, at your facility and your operation, and a lot going on in addition to just the aquaponics, which is huge. Tell us what else takes place at your facility.
So part of this is Superior Fresh attempting to change how we think about regenerative agriculture and how we think about organic agriculture, and bringing more hands, not this or that. So yes, we run a super high-tech greenhouse and a super high-tech fish house. We also run 800 acres of conservation and restoration land that are dedicated solely to native Wisconsin species, Wisconsin prairie, Wisconsin savanna habitat. And this is how we're able to be both the high-tech and your traditional, what people are maybe thinking of as a traditional organic farm. So on that property, we raise bees, as you can say, and have honey. Our president's grandparents were apiaries, and so he kind of carried on that tradition. We also we tap maple trees and make our own maple syrup. We harvest native wildflower seeds. We bring out tours, bring out gardening clubs, all sorts of things. And then if you're lucky and you're an employee here, every so often you get to enjoy the lakes yourself and go fishing and that type of thing. That project, I think, is what makes Superior Fresh so special, to be honest, is that we have both, and that these systems are functioning. So we're able to meet these kind of short-term needs of like, we've got to get food out there, as well as preserving 800 acres minimum of land for the long-term needs of clean water, clean land, and just simply environment, saved environment. So
thinking in both the short term and the long term, and you get to certainly see both of those at Superior Fresh. One of the ways that I know you think about the long term is making sure that you have the right amount of talent in the organization. And as we talked, I know you have graduates from all over the UW system, and Adam's an example, from our great technical and community colleges here in the Midwest. What can you tell us about the people who work at Superior Fresh? What types of degrees do they have? What is their education pathway? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So because of the multitude of different aspects to our farm, I feel like we can find a home for almost everybody. But we have, as far as the degree side of things, we have folks with degrees from UW River Falls in horticulture and plant science. We have degrees from UW Madison and in electrical engineering. A good chunk of the fisheries technicians inside the fish house are from UW Stevens Point with a degree in aquaculture, especially in fisheries or biology, that type of thing. We also have people that work here with degrees in aquaculture, horticulture, chemical engineering, food science, conservation biology. We also have folks with degrees from Chippewa Valley and technical, HVAC, CAD certified. We also have Andrew Shepard, who does all of the computer automated design for our entire facility. And then we have folks with marketing and sales degrees. We have hired folks with associates in both aquaculture and horticulture as well. And we've also, in the process of us growing as a company, have helped key employees pursue their education if they come into a job or they want to take on a role that needs that. In my opinion, at the end of the day, if you're willing to work and willing to just be adapted to the changing needs of our plant and our facility, there's a job for you at Superior Fresh. I think that's what this is about, is bringing people into this mission and bringing people into this realm of being not just getting all wrapped up in issues that are in our world today, but being a part of that solution and the work it's going to take to be a part of that solution. I think that's what we're looking for. So
a willingness to work, and certainly working in a mission-based organization, by the way. And if there's any doubt about the importance of STEM pathways as our young people are going through deciding about what direction they want to take their careers in, certainly tremendous opportunities at companies like Superior Fresh to put that STEM talent and that STEM education to work. I know that requires us also to inspire our students toward these types of career pathways. So our final question before we bounce over to our audience questions would be, tell us about how you go about inspiring those students in our middle schools and our elementary schools toward this type of technology.
So a lot of these type of events have slowed down during COVID, but one of my favorite memories as an intern here was I got to be a part of the conservation's crew. They hosted a whole busload of fifth graders. And these fifth graders, it was some of their first time fishing. It was some of theirs first time being on a boat. And for a lot of these kids, you get to give them that wow moment and get to show them why you should care about the environment, or like, yes, now I know that I like fishing and fishing is really fun. In order to fish, I've got to do these things. And so I just think just that simple exposure to like, this is what environments could look like, and this is what you can use the outdoors for. And those little things like that, I think are huge. Another thing is a lot of our marketing is targeted towards young kids and stuff and getting them excited about vegetables. Like we just released our whole new brand is all like bright rainbow colored, big bold letters and stuff. And that's for kids, to get kids excited about vegetables and that type of thing. Just next week, I'll be speaking to a middle school and early high school students about regenerative agriculture and the importance of working in food. This may sound silly, but something that's really satisfying to me is that I know that our employees go home with fresh product, especially if it's stuff that's not like that we may be composting for the day. And here you can't get a lettuce from any restaurant within the next 20 miles. And so I know that even if it's just as simple as their mom having access to fresh lettuce, these are all impacts that we make as a company that are all benefiting our community. We also take interns, usually late high school type of thing, just because we are a farm and don't want to get anybody injured or that type of thing. But sharing our story and getting people out there and having these type of student groups come out to the lake, we can hopefully just set a spark. And maybe in 10 years or whatever, that they decide they want to work in food or they want to work in conservation, and then we've done part of our job.
And I've seen a lot of creative ways of setting that spark. I think taking a child out on a boat to go fishing has got to be one of the most creative ways. That's a absolutely fantastic example. And Melissa, just watching the time here, I'm going to guess we have time for maybe one audience question. Why don't you pick the very best, and let's hear what our guests have to say.
Yeah, sure. So when looking at those clips of the greenhouse and then some with the fish, can you share where the fish are in relativity to the vegetables?
Yeah, so we have, because we want to make sure that both of our plants and fish are in optimal environments, our fish in a completely separate building, and it's a cooler building, they have fresh, clean water, everything in there is controlled for fish, for Atlantic salmon, deep in the ocean fish. Our greenhouse, which is right next door, is then all made like Salinas Valley, California. So it's high to mid 70s to low 80s, high humidity, high heat. And that's, the reason we have to do that is because a lot of aquaponics facilities raise tilapia or something that can handle the higher heat. And we wanted to produce quality protein, not just any protein. And so we created that whole specialized environment so that we could produce a high quality Atlantic salmon fish. But yeah, they're not directly connected to each other. There are plenty of food safe protocols separating the fish from the lettuce. And if you want to find it in your store, the nearest one in Milwaukee is at Festival Foods. So Festival Foods sells our fish.
Awesome. Matt, I think we have one more question. We're just going to pose real quick. We're getting ready to start up a Microfarm 1 system, which will be indoors. What kind of fish would you recommend?
If they're going to be in the same environment as the plants, I would definitely recommend tilapia. And yeah.
Great, perfect. And then obviously you guys use the Atlantic salmon. So those are 2 options. All right, thanks. Matt, I'll turn things over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Melissa. I want to begin by thanking our guests. What a great discussion we've had today with Katie Fitzgerald and Adam Olson all around this whole idea of aquaponics. I learned a ton. I'm sure our audience did as well. And it was just a really, really super discussion. So thanks to both of you for being with us. I want to make sure everybody's aware of our topic next week. I was just reading the Wall Street Journal this morning talking about how one of the producers of Jeeps, the automobile, is having to lower production because of a shortage of semiconductors. And there's an acute shortage of integrated circuits of semiconductors that is affecting supply chains all over the country. That is raising the interest in electronics programs in our technical colleges and in our high schools and in our universities. And we believe that this is going to be a significant trend in the next couple of years, which is trying to figure out how we get more and more students into the field of electronics, into the field of semiconductors. We'll be talking with 2 guests, actually from Great Britain next week, about how we do that. So we don't want you to miss that event. We'll be here next week because if it's Wednesday, it is always Webinar Wednesday. We will see you next week, Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Thank you.